They say money can buy everything. Except lost time, except the love of a child, except the peace of a conscience that no longer rests. William Carter had it all: a humble home filled with laughter, a wife who looked at him with admiration, and a son who followed him everywhere believing his father was the greatest man in the world. But one day, a promise of wealth planted a seed of ambition in his heart. And that seed grew so large it choked everything else. William traded his son's embraces for bills that never brought the happiness he sought. He traded afternoons with his wife for lonely nights in distant lands. He traded a simple but full life for the pursuit of a dream that became a nightmare. This is the story of a farmer who believed success was measured in material things, and discovered too late that the true wealth was already in his hands, and he let it slip away. It's the story of a son who only wanted his father's love, and of a father who woke up when there was no way back. Stay until the end, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a lesson we all must learn before it's too late. It's a mirror where you might see your own decisions reflected. And it's a cry of warning for all those who are about to make the same mistake. Leave us your opinion in the comments. Tell us, have you ever sacrificed time with your family to chase a dream? Was it worth it? Your experience might help others make better decisions. In a small town in rural Nebraska called Meadowbrook, lived a man with calloused hands and a noble heart named William Carter. He was a farmer who worked 40 acres of land inherited from his father. Land that wasn't rich but with hard work gave enough to live with dignity. William was 32 years old when our story begins, and living with him were the two people he loved most in the world. Sarah, his 28-year-old wife, a woman with a sweet smile and infinite patience who had been a teacher before getting married. And Daniel, his 10-year-old son, a boy with bright eyes who followed his father through the fields dreaming of the day he could work by his side. The Carter family's life was simple but happy. Every morning, William woke before dawn to care for his crops and his few head of cattle. Sarah prepared breakfast while Daniel fed the chickens and collected eggs, proud to fulfill his responsibilities. In the afternoons, when the sun began to descend, the three of them sat on the porch of their farmhouse to share the day's stories. "Dad," said Daniel with admiration in his eyes, "when I grow up I want to be like you. I want to work this land and care for my family like you care for us." William ruffled his son's hair and smiled. "Son, this land is yours too. One day all this will be yours, and I hope you'll value it as much as I value it." But destiny, that old acquaintance of farmers, had other plans hidden up its cruel sleeve. Everything changed one Saturday afternoon at the livestock fair in the neighboring town. William had brought 2 calves to sell when an elegantly dressed man approached him. His name was Mr. Raymond Foster, a prosperous rancher who owned thousands of acres in the northern part of the state. "Friend," Mr. Foster said with a calculated smile, "I've been watching you all afternoon. You have a good eye for cattle and know how to negotiate. What's your name?" "William Carter, at your service, sir." "William, you're smart and hard-working. You can't waste your life on this small piece of land. I need a reliable foreman on my ranch, Golden Horizon. I'm offering a salary 3 times what you make here." William felt something stir in his chest. 3 times his current income. That meant being able to give Sarah the comfort she deserved, send Daniel to a better school, maybe someday buy more land. "Mr. Foster, I appreciate your offer, but this land belongs to my family. My father taught me that a man doesn't abandon what's his." "William," insisted Mr. Foster with a paternal voice, "times are changing. Small producers have no future. In 5 years working for me, you'll save enough to buy property twice this size. Think about your family, about your son's future." Those words stuck in William's heart like thorns. Wasn't it his duty as a father to give the best to his family? Didn't Daniel deserve more opportunities than he'd had? That night, after putting Daniel to bed, William shared the proposal with Sarah. She listened in silence, and when he finished speaking, her eyes were full of concern. "William," she said with a soft but firm voice, "this land is our home. Daniel was born here, your parents rest here. Money is important, but at what price? Sarah, in 5 years we could have a much better life. Daniel could study at a city school. You wouldn't have to work so hard. What Daniel needs isn't a city school, William. He needs his father. What I need isn't comforts, but my husband with me. The discussion extended over weeks. William began to see his property with different eyes, noticing every defect, every limitation. The fence that needed repair, the roof that leaked when it rained, the small size of the corral. One especially difficult week convinced him. A storm destroyed part of the harvest and 2 cows got sick. While counting the few savings he had, William felt the weight of poverty like never before. It's now or never, he told himself. And without consulting Sarah again, he called Mr. Foster to accept the proposal. The day of departure dawned cold and gray, as if the sky itself was crying for what was about to happen. Sarah had spent the night packing the few belongings William would take, her tears falling silently onto the clothes she folded with care. Daniel didn't fully understand what was happening. "How long are you going for, Dad?" he asked over and over, with that voice that made William's heart squeeze painfully. "It won't be long, son," William responded, lying without realizing it. "Dad's going to work to earn money and give us a better life. I'll be back soon. But who's going to teach me to work the farm? Who's going to tell me stories before bed?" William hugged his son, feeling tears threatening to come. "Daniel, take care of your mom while I'm gone. Be the little man of the house. Everything I do is for you to give you a better future." Sarah watched from the porch, her hands pressed against her chest. When William approached to say goodbye, she looked directly into his eyes. "William Carter, you're leaving chasing a dream we don't need. We already have everything that matters here. But if you've decided to go knowing this. Your son needs you more than any money, and I need the man who made me promises of love, not the one who promises me riches." William kissed his wife on the forehead. "I'll be back soon, Sarah. And when I return, you'll see that all this was worth it." It was a promise that would become the biggest lie of his life. The first months were the hardest for everyone. William wrote letters describing his new life, the hard but well-paid work, the opportunities opening up. He sent money regularly, believing that compensated for his absence. Sarah read the letters to Daniel every night, and the boy fell asleep hugging his father's photograph. But with each passing month, something in Daniel's eyes began to fade. He no longer asked when his dad would return. He no longer talked about working the farm by his side when he grew up. Sarah tried to maintain the property alone, but without William's knowledge and strength, the small farm began to decline. The harvests weren't as abundant, the cattle got sick more frequently, every problem became an impossible mountain to climb. Months turned into years. William visited less and less, and when he did, he was no longer the same simple man who had left. He talked constantly about money, about business opportunities, about increasingly ambitious plans. During the second year, a drought devastated the region. Sarah watched helplessly as the pastures dried up and the cattle lost weight. Without sufficient resources, she lost half the herd. When she called William to tell him, his response left her frozen. "Sarah, these things happen. With the money I'm earning, we'll soon recover all that and more. Mr. Foster offered me a promotion. I'll be general foreman." "William, I don't need you to be general foreman. I need my husband here. Daniel needs you. This land needs you. Just a little more time, love. Just a little more." Those words became an empty refrain that Sarah heard each time with less hope. Daniel, now 12 years old, had matured prematurely. He helped his mother with everything he could, becoming the man of the house his father had asked him to be. But in his eyes was a sadness no child should have. The town school had closed for lack of funds, and Sarah informally taught Daniel and other children in her own home. It was a situation that could have easily been solved with William's support, but he was too far away, too absorbed in his own ambitions. During the 4th year, William's letters became even more spaced out. He no longer asked about Daniel, about how he was doing in his studies, about what he liked to do. He only wrote about his professional achievements, about the money he was saving, about the grand plans he had. Sarah noticed another disturbing change. When William called on the phone, his voice sounded different. He spoke quickly, impatiently, as if the conversation with his family was a bothersome obligation to fulfill. "William," Sarah said during one of those tense calls, "your son is growing up without you. He's changing, learning new things, and you're missing everything. Sarah, don't be dramatic. Kids grow up anyway. What's important is that when I return, we'll be able to give him everything he needs. What he needs is you, William. Not your money. You. But William no longer listened. His mind was too busy calculating savings, planning investments, dreaming of the day he would return triumphant with material proof of his success. And that proof arrived at the end of the 5th year. A blue Ford truck, almost new, that Mr. Foster sold him at a special price as a reward for his years of dedicated service. For William, that truck represented much more than a vehicle. It was the tangible symbol of all his sacrifice, the proof that he'd been right, the evidence that would finally silence those who doubted his decision. He spent weeks preparing for his triumphant return. He washed and polished the truck until it shined like a mirror. He practiced in his mind the words he would use to describe his success. He imagined the admiration in Sarah's eyes, the pride in Daniel's gaze. He couldn't have been more wrong about what awaited him. 5 years and 4 months had passed since his departure when William finally returned to Meadowbrook. He drove slowly down the dusty road that led to his house, savoring every mile, imagining his family's surprise. It was a Saturday afternoon when he arrived. The sound of the horn echoed throughout the neighborhood, a long, shrill sound that intended to announce not only his return, but his transformation into a successful man. Neighbors came out of their houses, curious to see what novelty William brought after so long. Sarah came out to the porch drying her hands on her apron, her expression a mixture of complex emotions William couldn't interpret. Daniel, now 15 years old and considerably taller, came running from the house. But he stopped halfway, watching the man getting out of the gleaming truck. It was his father, yes, but also an elegantly dressed stranger who didn't resemble the humble farmer he remembered. "Look at this family," William exclaimed with arms extended like a showman. 5 years of hard work have finally paid off. This beauty represents our prosperous future. But Daniel didn't run to hug him as William had imagined. The teenager stood there, looking more at the truck than at his father, trying to process 5 years of absence summed up in a gleaming vehicle. "Mr. Thompson, come see this," William shouted toward the neighbor's house, completely absorbed in showing off his prize. V8 engine, air conditioning, imported tires. During the following hours, William gave an impromptu tour to all the neighbors who approached. He opened the hood to show the engine, explained technical features, described his plans to use the truck in future businesses. Sarah watched from the porch with growing pain. The man who had returned was physically William, but his behavior, his priorities, his way of relating had completely changed. He seemed more interested in impressing strangers than embracing his family. Daniel tried to approach several times. "Dad, will you tell me about your work? What were the places where you lived like?" "Later, son, later," William responded distractedly, without even looking at him. "Right now I need to explain to Mr. Peterson how this transmission system works." That night, during the dinner Sarah had prepared with so much care, William barely paid attention to his family. He talked non-stop about his future plans, about business opportunities, about the possibility of working in another state with an even higher salary. "Another state?" Sarah repeated with a choked voice. "William, I thought you'd come to stay." "Sarah, we can't think small. With this truck I can transport goods, get contracts, expand our opportunities." "Our opportunities?" Daniel intervened with a voice that was no longer a child's. "Dad, I thought now that you returned we could work our land together. Mom taught me a lot during these years." William looked at him with an expression mixing surprise and something like disappointment. "Daniel, subsistence farming has no future. You need to think big, study something worthwhile." The words fell on the teenager like slaps. Everything he had learned, all the effort he'd put into keeping the family land alive, all of it was worthless to his father. Dinner ended in tense silence. William went out again to show the truck to more neighbors, leaving Sarah and Daniel alone, as they had been for 5 years. Sunday dawned clear and beautiful. William slept late, exhausted from the previous night celebrations. Sarah and Daniel followed their usual routine. Early mass, return home, minor tasks caring for the few animals that remained. Daniel had developed during the years a special love for keeping everything in order. It was his way of honoring the memory of the father he had known, maintaining hope that when he returned permanently, he would find everything perfect. That morning, while his father slept, Daniel saw the blue truck parked under the oak tree. It was covered by a fine layer of dust from the trip and had mud stains on the tires. In his teenage heart that desperately sought paternal approval, an idea arose that seemed perfect: surprise his father by washing the truck. It would be his way of showing he'd grown up, that he was responsible, that he deserved to be seen and valued. Now, before continuing with this journey, leave your opinion in the comments about this story. This is very important to us and makes a difference. Remember to hit like and support our work by subscribing to the channel and activating notifications to learn about our new videos, which tell emotional and moving stories about the life of country folks in their daily struggle with the land, teaching us valuable lessons about family and priorities. Stay with us and discover the surprising ending that awaits. Daniel went to the small tool shed and gathered everything he needed: a bucket, a hose, soap, and clean rags. With the care he put into all his tasks, he began washing the truck. He worked for almost 2 hours. But in his inexperience and anxiety to do a perfect job, he didn't realize he was using products that were too abrasive. The rough sponges he used for cleaning began scratching the vehicle's delicate paint, creating visible lines that extended across the entire side surface. Daniel concentrated on his task and, thinking only of the smile he would see on his father's face, didn't notice the damage he was causing. When he finally finished, he wiped the sweat from his forehead and contemplated his work with satisfaction. The truck was clean, without traces of dust. Proud of his surprise, he ran to the house to wake his father. He entered the room where William was sleeping and with a voice full of emotion whispered, "Dad, wake up. I have a surprise for you." William woke slowly, in a bad mood from having his sleep interrupted. "What's wrong, Daniel? What time is it?" "Dad, I washed your truck for you. I wanted to give you a welcome surprise. I wanted you to see that I've grown up, that I can help you." The words took a few seconds to process in William's confused mind. When he finally understood, he jumped from the bed with a mixture of panic and foreboding. He ran out in pajamas, followed by Daniel, who still smiled with pride. When they reached where the truck was parked, the morning sunlight revealed the disaster. The entire side surface was covered in deep scratches. What happened next was forever engraved in the memory of all who witnessed it. William looked at the scratches. He looked at his son, and something inside him broke. 5 years of frustration, of pressure, of materialistic obsession exploded in a moment of fury he himself couldn't control. "No!" he roared with a voice that didn't seem human. "What did you do?" Daniel stepped back frightened, not understanding the magnitude of what had occurred. "Dad, I wanted it to be clean. You destroyed my truck." William shouted beside himself. 5 years. 5 years of work. And you destroyed it in one morning." The words that followed were like daggers. Words no father should ever say to his child. Words that broke something that could never be repaired. "You're useless. A destroyer. You're good for nothing. I wish you'd never been born." Sarah, who had come running when she heard the screams, arrived just in time to see her husband, blinded by rage, raise his hand toward their son. She stepped between them. "William, no!" She screamed with all the strength of her lungs. But the damage was already done. Physical blows weren't needed. The words had already destroyed something much deeper. Daniel looked at his father with eyes full of tears, not of physical pain, but of something much worse: the devastating understanding that for his father, a piece of metal was worth more than him. That 5 years of absence had been for a truck. That all his efforts to keep the family land alive meant nothing. "Dad," he whispered with a broken voice, I just wanted you to see me, to feel proud of me." But William was no longer listening. He was obsessed with the scratches, calculating how much it would cost to repair them, cursing his luck, blaming his son for destroying his dream. Daniel turned and began to walk. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He simply walked with a terrifying calm for a 15-year-old who had just watched his hero die. "Where are you going?" William shouted. Come back here. Leave him alone, Sarah said with a voice William had never heard from her. A cold, hard voice, filled with pain that went far beyond this moment. You've done enough damage. I did damage. He destroyed my truck. 5 years of sacrifice. 5 years, Sarah repeated, and there was so much pain in those 2 words that William felt a chill. 5 years you sacrificed your family for this. And now that you finally see what really matters, it's too late. Daniel didn't return that night, nor the next. Sarah called all their acquaintances, the neighbors, the police. They found the boy 3 days later at his maternal uncle's house, 2 towns away. He had walked for hours to get there. When Sarah went to get him, she found a different son. The eyes that looked at her no longer had the warmth from before. There was in them a hardness, a distance that broke a mother's heart. Mom, Daniel said with a calm voice, too calm for a 15-year-old boy, I don't want to go back while he's there. Son, your father was confused, angry. He didn't mean those things. Yes, he did, Mom. And I heard them loud and clear. For 5 years I kept alive the hope that he would return. I took care of the land thinking of him. I waited every day for his return. And when he finally came back, I discovered that all that time wasn't for us. It was for a truck. Sarah hugged her son, feeling how her family crumbled between her fingers like dry sand. Meanwhile, in Meadowbrook, William faced for the first time the reality of what he had done. The neighbors who the day before admired his truck now looked at him with a mixture of pity and reproach. Mr. Thompson, his lifelong neighbor, was the only one who had the courage to tell him the truth. William, he said sadly, you lost 5 years chasing a dream. And when you finally caught it, you discovered the price was your family. Was it worth it? Those words fell on William like a bucket of cold water. He sat on the porch of his house, the same house where he'd played as a child, where he'd courted Sarah, where he'd held newborn Daniel for the first time. He looked toward the scratched truck. He no longer saw it as a symbol of success. He saw it for what it really was, the physical evidence of his failure as a father and husband, a soulless piece of metal for which he had sacrificed everything that really mattered. The following days were a hell of remorse. William tried to fix the paint, but every time he looked at the scratches he no longer saw the damage to the vehicle. He saw the tears in his son's eyes. He heard his own cruel words. He remembered Sarah's expression when she told him it was too late. A week later, Daniel agreed to return. But the boy who came back was a stranger. He didn't speak with William. When his father entered a room, he left. When William tried to approach, Daniel moved away with a cold politeness that was worse than any scream. Son, William tried one night, we need to talk. I need to ask your forgiveness. There's nothing to talk about, Daniel responded without looking at him. You already said everything you had to say that morning. Now I know exactly what I'm worth to you. Daniel, I was confused, blinded by rage. I didn't mean those things. But you said them. And I'll never forget them. William tried everything. He tried to give away the truck. He tried to sell it. He tried to make peace by offering material things, not realizing he was making the same mistake over and over. Sarah watched it all with silent pain. Her marriage was dead. The relationship between father and son was broken. And all for an obsession with things that had no life or soul. 2 months after the incident, William made a decision. One early morning, before anyone woke up, he wrote 2 letters. One for Sarah and another for Daniel. In the letter to his wife he wrote, Sarah, you were the best wife a man could wish for. You warned me. You told me what we needed we already had. But I didn't listen. I chased a wrong dream and lost everything real. I can't live knowing I destroyed my family for worthless things. Take care of our son. Tell him his father loved him, but was too foolish to show it in time. In the letter to Daniel he wrote, My son, there aren't enough words to ask your forgiveness for what I did to you. I spent 5 years away from you chasing riches, and when I finally returned, I made you feel you were worth nothing. The truth is you're worth everything. And I'm worth nothing. A father who hurts his child with cruel words for defending an object doesn't deserve to be called a father. I hope someday, when you're older, you can forgive the wrong man who was your father. Work this land with love. Take care of your mother. And never, never make my mistakes. He left the letters on the table, along with the truck documents and all the money he had left. He walked toward the field where his father had taught him to work the land, where he'd played as a child, where he'd made all the important decisions of his life. He sat under the century-old tree and watched the sunrise one last time. The same golden colors he'd seen for 37 years. The same land he'd despised while chasing dreams in distant places. The same peace he'd abandoned to seek something he believed was better. And in that final moment, with absolute clarity, William understood the truth that had been in front of him all along. True wealth was never in what he could earn or buy. It was always in what he already had and didn't know how to value. William Carter disappeared that morning. Some say he went to work in distant lands, seeking redemption in hard work. Others say he couldn't live with the weight of his mistakes. The truth is that the man who had been William died the day he chose a truck over his son. What remained after was only a shadow filled with regret. Sarah and Daniel rebuilt their lives slowly. The family land flourished again under their care. But in that house something was always missing, an emptiness that no abundant harvest could fill. Daniel grew up and became a wise man who taught others the most expensive lesson he had learned. That material things are just that, things. And that no object in the world is worth more than the love of a family. This story teaches us a truth we all need to hear. Ambition without balance destroys everything it touches. William wasn't a bad man. He was a father who wanted the best for his family. But he got confused about what was best. He believed success was measured in possessions. That his family's love could be compensated with money. That 5 years of absence were worth it for a truck. And when he finally saw his mistake, the damage was already done. The words we say in moments of fury can hurt deeper than any blow. The years we lose chasing wrong dreams never return. Children grow up only once. If we're not present to watch them grow, that time is lost forever. To all the fathers listening to us, your children don't need you to be rich. They need you to be present. They don't need expensive gifts. They need your time, your attention, your love demonstrated every day with simple actions. To all who are thinking of sacrificing time with your family to chase more money, stop for a moment and ask yourselves, what will your children remember when they grow up? The gifts you bought them or the time you didn't spend with them? Life has a price, and that price is sometimes higher than we imagine. William paid it in full. May his story serve so others don't have to pay the same price. Because in the end, when everything else fades, when money runs out and possessions are lost, the only thing that remains is the love of those who love us. And if we've destroyed that love chasing soulless things, what do we have left then? Nothing. Only the empty echo of what we could have been and weren't. Only the regret of words we shouldn't have said. Only the painful memory of moments we'll never recover. Don't make William's mistake. Value what you have while you have it. Hug your children today. Say words of love today. Be present today. Because tomorrow may be too late.